Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Chris Hulburt of the National Conflict Resolution Center. It's my great privilege to be here today with the 2020 Local Peacemakers. You know, for 32 years, the National Conflict Resolution Center has been gathering at our Annual Peacemaker Awards dinner in order to highlight the amazing work of local peacemakers and national peacemakers. This year, of course, because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to have the dinner, but we do have the peacemakers. And we don't want to let this opportunity to pass to celebrate them, honor them, and take inspiration from their great work. These peacemakers were chosen in partnership with KPBS, who we've been working with for several years. And I'm proud to introduce now Tom Carlo, the general manager of KPBS, who will share more about these peacemakers.
Thank you very much, Chris. And as you just heard, normally we would have honored these amazing individuals at the NCRC Peacemakers Awards dinner. But today we get a chance to shine a light on their contributions to all of us here in San Diego. For the past 3 years, KPBS and the National Conflict Resolution Center have celebrated individuals making a difference in our community. We brought together conversations and dialogue with all of us in San Diego to really focus on the issues that are affecting all of us and hoping that we could come up with some solutions. So on behalf of all of us at KPBS and the National Conflict Resolution Center, we want to honor and celebrate and congratulate the 2020 Local Peacemaker Honorees, and they are Buki Domingos, Nico Marcolongo, Pairis, and Sherrie Rubin.
Thank you, Tom. And we're here today with Nico Marcolongo. He's doing amazing work with the Challenge Athletes Foundation. We're here with Buki Domingos, who's a human trafficking survivor and working with Activist San Diego, and Sherrie Rubin, who will tell a little bit of her story with her son. She's being honored for her amazing work in response to the opioid epidemic. Not with us today, unfortunately, is Pairis. She's being honored for her work with climate change, and she just couldn't make it today. And we're going to enter into a conversation with these peacemakers. I have some questions for them. I invite the audience to submit questions as well. Before we jump into that, I want to share a little bit more about each one of these amazing peacemakers, and I invite you to watch this video with me.
We can expect that we are going to have more extreme flooding events, more extreme heat events, more extreme fire. The vision I had to create the Climate Science Alliance, I wanted to create a space where people could come together and really look at how we build resilience on a regional scale. So we talk about what climate change is, and then we talk about what that looks like here where we live. How are we going to protect people in their homes or where they live, but also in protecting their air quality and their water quality and taking a more holistic view. And Climate Kids is built around this concept of hands-on science, art, and storytelling. But it's always solution-based. So at the end of the day, the kids make a commitment to something they can do. We are really moving the needle on both our mitigation as well as adapting our communities, and that this is done in a way where everyone has a voice.
I'd been involved with the Challenge Athletes Foundation while I was in the Marine Corps. So when I got out, they brought me on to become the manager of the Operation Rebound program, for which I helped start. Operation Rebound is a program that empowers our injured veterans and first responders lead healthy, active, productive lives through sports. What we try to do is let them know, hey, they're going to do all the things they used to do and things they never dreamed of doing. Get them back out there into society, doing things that they love doing, being physical again. But really what it means is excelling in life, using sports as a vehicle to overcome your challenges and being a productive citizen. We want to make sure all of our veterans get from the front line to the finish line.
My son Aaron overdosed on OxyContin. He is a quadriplegic and he can't speak. The Hope Together Foundation is a group of volunteers to provide education and prevent addiction and overdose deaths. Going out to the schools, the meetings, or the community groups and giving a presentation. I think that that's the most important thing to do that would stem the epidemic. Aaron's story is extremely effective. Yes. If one person in the room is affected, that's our goal.
Human trafficking has many faces. A boyfriend or a husband would be the trafficker. In my case, it was entertainment. They would collect the money for it, and I was trapped. I couldn't do anything. It was a scary thing to do at first, speaking about my story. But I realized that the only way to overcome human trafficking is to educate people. So that's why I started using my voice.
I know there will be a better place.
Anywhere I can do outreach, I do outreach. Activist San Diego is a social justice nonprofit. We own a local radio station, and I just use that to continue to educate and enlighten people in how they can find resources.
Congratulations, each one of you. What a pleasure to be with you here today. You know, we saw there at the end of the video several sponsors of the National Conflict Resolution Center. I want to highlight just two, the two that are sponsoring these awards for these people, and that's Bobby and John Gilbert, and also KPBS. Thank you so much for being the sponsors of the Local Peacemaker Awards. You know, we're living kind of a shared experience in this coronavirus pandemic. In many ways, we're all kind of going through the same thing, and in many ways, we're kind of going through it together. But I've been thinking about how each of the communities and the unique people that you serve are experiencing this in their own way, suffering perhaps in their own unique ways, maybe finding opportunities or challenges that are unique to each one of those. Nico Marcolongo, I know you work with wounded soldiers and recovering veterans at the Challenge Athletes Foundation. They're still wounded, they're still recovering, they're still dealing with the emotional and physical consequences of their injuries. And how are they being uniquely affected today in this coronavirus pandemic?
Well, Chris, I think one of the toughest things right now is the isolation. You know, a lot of these troops like to get out and go to events, for example. And there are so many events that are specific to veterans where they get to come together and bond together. And that's just not happening now. So what we're doing to mitigate that is to connect them through, you know, our virtual opportunities, whether it's our Challenge Athletes Foundation Cycling Club, the Operation Rebound Strava Club, or what have you. We're buying a lot of equipment so they can do workouts at home and then connect that way. So our goal is to keep the troops fit and connected. We have Zoom workouts that we do, those types of things. So a lot of these vets are used to being on deployment. It's kind of like another deployment for them. And, you know, this too shall pass, but they are powering through right now. And we're fortunate to our donors and to organizations like yours that are giving us a platform to get out there and talk about our mission. So thank you.
Thank you. This too shall pass. That's the hopeful words that many people are repeating and really clinging to in this era. I've seen a bunch of people working out at home when I go out for walks daily. That seems to be a very common experience. Buki, Domingos, certainly people are still being exploited. People are still being trafficked. And I wonder how that experience has been uniquely affected in this time.
Well, in this time, we know that the statistics have shown that domestic violence, there has been a spike in domestic violence and human trafficking I know that a few people, including the Survival Leader Network of San Diego, came together and wrote a joint letter to MasterCard to encourage people not to use, encourage them to stop using their cards to buy sex. So these times are different. People are home, and we know that social media is in an all-time high, and people are still going on those sites and still, doing what they've been doing before, which is exploiting vulnerable individuals.
I did see somewhere, I think I read an article that the porn sites are just exploding in this time. And also the real danger of people at home in a domestic violence situation when everybody's at home, maybe not able to respond or not able to call for help.
Yeah,
Sher-
yeah.
Sherrie, Rubin, the opioid epidemic was grabbing all of the news and the attention for a long, long time before this coronavirus epidemic. The isolation, the separation that has come from this, how is that affecting those who are struggling with addiction?
Well, the pandemic, the coronavirus, is obviously having a tremendous effect on the recovery community as far as meetings, as far as going together and being connected for support. Virtual meetings are available, virtual resources are available. But as we know, people need people. And as far as another avenue, going into detox, into a hospital, we're struggling with that. We're not allowed really to be in a hospital unless we have the coronavirus or believed to have had the coronavirus. So we're limited at that front, and we need to have detox and we need to have the evaluation before individuals can go into recovery. And then, of course, our recovery homes, that's another situation that's struggling as well because of the coronavirus. And primarily in our organization is advocacy and education and awareness. We can't get in front of young adults. We can't do presentations for companies or corporations as far as the awareness. So we're struggling, but using the phone and connecting with people and referring them to resources that are available.
Sherrie, I know that so much of your personal efforts were to make presentations at schools and large gatherings to really sort of highlight the consequences of the opioid epidemic. What are you doing now to try to continue your work in this era? How have you tried to adjust what you're doing with Hope Together?
What we understand now is we primarily had based our education efforts in front of audiences. So we realize now we're going to have to do a better job in creating some virtual videos, a virtual education series, and virtual presentations that can be utilized by the education system for young adults and for the recovery community as well. We have a large event that was going to have 10,000 students with the San Diego District Attorney's Office at a stadium. Well, that event will now be a viral event or media event, a virtual event, I guess is the right word. And so we'll be reaching out in that way to the students of San Diego County with the District Attorney's Office. So the education continues, but we're navigating and finding a different virtual way to reach our audience.
Thank you. And Buki, let me ask you the same question. What can you do? What are you doing? What do you need in order to reach out effectively to serve the people that you're working with?
So I like to tell everyone I am not a service agency. I work with any and everyone who's organizing around human trafficking in San Diego and counties. And what they need most of all is financial resources. Everything has been moved virtually. I know that Point Loma Nazarene University, through the Center for Justice and Reconciliation, is doing amazing work through Kimberly Jones, who's the new program director, and people like Jessica Kim and Marjorie and Laura and Kathy and Yusuf in North County Lifeline, and many, many, many other people are organizing virtually around this issue of human trafficking. And what they really need is housing, because there are still people who are still out there without proper shelter, and there are people who are still in the hands of their abusers and traffickers. And it's really, really difficult. So we need to reach out to those organizations that are working and lend a hand and ask what way they need help.
Thank you. Nico, you mentioned that you've got some Zoom training sessions online and encouraging wounded veterans to work out at home. What kind of successes have you experienced during this time, or what kind of challenges have you confronted?
Well, the challenges have been, obviously, when it first happened, it came on so strongly and so quickly that, gym memberships were frozen, for example. So the troops couldn't go out to the gym. So we found ourselves buying gym equipment, and that was going fairly quickly. So there's back orders and such that we face. But we also have a partner that we work with, Gut Check Fitness, who does a 3-day week workout that it's free for our challenge athletes. So it's really bringing our community together to help our challenge athletes. We do this in partnership, whether it's with OSER, our global partner, Gut Check Fitness, any one of our partners helps us do this. And with the troops, being able to connect them to our virtual opportunities, such as, say, our cycling club, it keeps them interactive. One of my vets said, that Operation Rebound has provided me the opportunity to be independent without feeling alone. And that's what we want to make sure, that these troops don't feel alone. They don't feel isolated. They know they have a team right here to help them get from the front line to the finish line.
Great. We're going to continue the conversation, and we have more questions. I also want to let the audience know that you can submit questions yourself in the live comments section on the screen, and we'll try to get to some of those. And before we get any further, though, I want to make the audience aware that the National Conflict Resolution Center circles on a regular basis, virtual community circles. We're building community, strengthening community by drawing people together through these virtual circles online. They're facilitated by our trained facilitators. And it creates an opportunity for people to meet, maybe meet folks who you would not otherwise have met, and to talk about what's actually happening now. The next circle is coming up on Wednesday, the 20th, from 1 to 3 o'clock. It will be called Navigating Our New Normal, gathering together with others to talk about what's happening now, what's going to look like in the future, how can we plan and prepare for what's coming. You can learn much more about the circles that are scheduled in the weeks and months ahead on our website at ncrconline.com/community circles. You have to register, but it's free and open to anyone. I encourage you to look into that further. Let's get back to our local peacemakers. We're here with Nico Marcolongo, Buki Domingos, and Sherrie Rubin. And I want to invite you to think about the future, planning the path forward in your work. What do you see in the areas of your concern? What do you see moving forward in the future of how we can most effectively make a difference in your areas? Sherrie, what do you see going forward in the area of response to the opioid epidemic?
Well, as we move forward through this pandemic and into the future, I realize that overdoses have increased. Use of all types of drugs has increased, opiates and all types of others. And it's so important for people to reach out to someone in some manner so they feel that they're not alone during this time. Depression has been a huge effect, mental and emotional effects of this pandemic have really increased the struggles of those with substance abuse disorder. I feel like we need to develop a virtual meeting, a virtual reach out. I would love for everyone to reach out to someone they know and just say hello. You can't imagine how that can help someone, whether you know they're struggling with any challenges or not. I would like to move forward and make, like I said, the virtual videos with resources for individuals that need to reach out in a various way of recovery and disorder of substance abuse, just to keep them knowing that they're not alone. Because sometimes we, even in the best circumstances, and we have individuals standing right next to us, we can feel alone. And now that we are isolated, we feel so much more alone, even on an individual basis, if we're not struggling with any mental or emotional disease. And so I just know that there's a lot of work, a lot of, what do I want to say? I think a plan, it's something that I need to do a lot of brainstorming on how to effectively try to reach individuals and help them without being able to go to their house, talk to them, and see them in a group. And it's challenging, but I know that we can do it, and we're up for that challenge.
Thank you, Sherrie. You have been doing amazing work, and I know you will continue. That feeling of being alone is something that everyone is experiencing, really, and I would imagine that has a big part to play in the human trafficking experience, also a feeling of being separated and isolated and alone. Buki, what do you see going forward? What's next in the effort to combat human trafficking? Buki, I'm not hearing you. I wonder if your microphone is muted.
Yes, my
Oh, I'm
microphone
sorry.
was muted.
I'm
I
sorry. I don't think we
apologize.
heard your answer.
Yes, so my answer is I first of all wanted to look at the word peace, making sure that it's all inclusive of race, gender, sexuality, socioeconomic status, and most of all religion, that we bring along our Muslim brothers and sisters as well. And that moving forward, somebody had asked a question about how they would get through the pandemic on our live comments. And for human trafficking, social distancing definitely does not mean emotional distancing. You have people like Free to Thrive. You have people like the Center for Justice and Reconciliation Survivor Leader Network, even the NCRC. Everybody is organizing virtual meetings and connecting with each other. Please find a way to connect with each other. I know that there are also services through Cox Cable and people that are giving free internet connections or reduced internet connections. This is a time to stay connected. call someone, do not hesitate, and by all means, find a way to get your voice out there, because that is when we really crumble, not just because we feel physically isolated, but of course, because we also feel emotionally isolated. So I can see us in the future organizing around a lot of virtual meetings and possibly distributing healthcare supplies like masks and gloves and hand sanitizers so people can slowly start to reintegrate into society and take care of necessities that you cannot do virtually. For example, doctor's visits.
Yeah, thank you. There are amazing opportunities actually for community building, even in this time of physical separation. And we seem to be seeing that all over the place. People have a desire to help others, really. We have a desire to reach out and care for our neighbors. I think maybe wonderful things could come out of this very strange experience. Nico, what do you see going forward for the work that's necessary to care for our wounded veterans and our recovering veterans?
Well, I think Buki hit it on the head. It's staying connected. And I think what we have to do, one of the challenges I think for all of us, especially who are leaders in these various areas, is focused on our mission, stay focused on our mission. Each day I tell people, and one of the questions here was, what piece of advice would you give? I'd say, stay humble and be compassionate. And go forth and help people and truly do things that are in their best interest, because this is going to be for a while, and some things are not going to go back to the way they were. For example, air travel. It's likely that we're going to have fewer people traveling. A lot of our veterans have compromised immune systems, so they're going to take more precautions. So I foresee maybe more localized events taking place, which will be smaller. Now, that could be more intimate, though, so they won't be these big crowds. And helping and working with local organizations to help our vets. So the good thing about our setup at Challenge Athletes Foundation is that we have a lot of flexibility on how we can support. And we're going to help them, all our Challenge athletes, power through this current pandemic and help them get through whatever's on the other side.
Thank you. You all are so inspiring in this time, really. We have just a little bit of a time left, and so I wanted to ask you another question, really, that maybe is a little bit more personal to each one of you. What are you doing to maintain your resilience in this time? What are you doing to survive this pandemic and still be effective and still be passionate about the work that you do? What do you think, Buki? What are you doing? What piece of it? What can you share? What are you doing to hold yourself together?
In less than 1 minute, what I do to hold myself together, I'll just give you a quick breakdown of how I wake up every day. I wake up every day, I read my Bible, I work out for an hour, I have my bike at home. So thank you, Nico, for what you're doing. And most of all, I try to connect with people in my community and see what it is that I can do to help. And sometimes it might just be a simple text message asking somebody, how are you?
Great. Thank you. Sherrie, what are you doing to maintain your resilience?
Well, I have Aaron who keeps me in stitches every day. He's quite funny. But personally, I do a lot of baking. I've been doing some baking and donating the products to the local hospitals, to the nurses, and also to our first responders. And it really makes me just feel really good when I'm doing something for someone else. And I don't think about that I'm alone, and I don't think about the pandemic. I just create these delicious little things for other people's to enjoy and to have a sweet moment in their life, because as Nico said, this too shall pass. And we have to remember that life is good. Life is so good, and we are all so blessed. And I connect with my family and my grandkids, and I love being in the kitchen and creating sweet little treats.
Wonderful. I've experienced the full spectrum of both of those, eating too many treats and trying to exercise that off. So
Yes.
I'm with you. Nico, what are you doing? You look great. How are you holding it together?
I'm working out every day, which is keeping me sane, maintaining my sense of humor, and I sing a little song for my coworkers every day, and I send it out via text. I'm the self-proclaimed COVID crooner. Now, I don't sing as well as Buki, but I think it gives them a laugh. So,
Wonderful. Well, you are all truly peacemakers. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you today on this program. I thank you so much for the great work that you've been doing, that I know you will continue to do. Buki Domingo of Activist San Diego, Sherrie Rubin of the Hope Together Foundation, Nico Marcolongo of Operation Rebound at the Challenge Athletes Foundation. Congratulations to each of you, and also to Amber Pairis of the Climate Science Alliance. And let me remind our audience again that you can continue to have these kind of conversations with our virtual community circles, and you can access each of those on our website at ncrconline/community circles. It's a great way to build community and create relationship even in this time of physical distance. Thank you so much to all of you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank
It's a
you
real
to every
pleasure.
single essential worker out there. Bye.
Yes.